U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, one of President Donald Trump's closest allies, has died suddenly at the age of 71. Graham was a major voice on foreign policy in Washington and frequently advised Trump on issues including Iran and Russia.
What happens when a man who publicly crusaded against a community secretly lived within it? Lindsey Graham was known as a harsh critic of LGBTQ+ rights. Yet after his death, a startling confession from someone close to him threatens to unravel the carefully constructed image he maintained for decades. How could someone so vocally opposed to queer rights be linked so intimately to that very community? This revelation is far from just another political scandal. It exposes deep contradictions between public persona and private life, showing a side of Graham nobody openly dared to discuss. As the truth surfaces, the implications for politics, power, and personal survival are staggering, making this story one that demands more than just a fleeting glance. The hidden life revealed. Lindsey Graham's death has opened the floodgates to conversations once silenced by fear and legal threats. Behind the public figure known for his conservative, often hostile stance on LGBTQ+ issues lies a secret life that many suspected but few dared confirm. Now, a key figure connected to Graham is breaking a long-standing silence, revealing intimate details that challenge everything we thought we knew about the senator. This insider's testimony hints at a complex reality where private actions contradict public words, shaking the foundations of his carefully curated image. The whistleblower, a transgender actress who once engaged in a discreet arrangement with Graham, claims that non-disclosure agreements and political pressures kept her and others from speaking out while he was alive. Only now, with Graham gone, does she feel free to share her story openly. She describes transactions that defy the narrative of Graham as a strict family value crusader, painting a picture of late-night encounters and hidden desires. Yet, many questions remain unanswered, inviting deeper scrutiny into the life hidden behind the political facade. What makes this revelation especially striking is the apparent paradox between Graham's daytime persona and his private moments. On one hand, he pushed policies that marginalized and vilified queer communities. On the other, he financially supported and personally engaged with individuals from those very groups. This duality suggests a profound internal conflict or calculated silence that protected his public standing. It's a bittersweet recognition. The same person who contributed to hardship for many may have inadvertently provided financial support to some, albeit under complicated and morally ambiguous circumstances. As whispers of other similar secrets swirl through Washington, this story serves as a window into a larger culture of concealment among powerful figures. The hidden lives behind the headlines hint at an underground network of relationships kept invisible by fear, shame, and political expediency. Understanding what prompted this particular witness to come forward may unlock even more stories, revealing the silent struggles that existed in tandem with Graham's very public political battles. The truth is beginning to emerge, but it's only the opening act. Behind this unfolding narrative lies an uncomfortable reflection on power and privacy. Those who once protected these secrets are now watching them unravel, exposing the vulnerabilities that fame and influence could not shield forever. The secrecy that once governed these interactions has started to dissolve, and with every disclosure, the public learns another piece of a puzzle long ignored. It is a reminder that the personal and political are often more entangled than official biographies admit. This exposé also raises questions about the authenticity of public personas in politics. How many other officials maintain contradictory lives, shaped by desperate attempts to conceal their true identities from their constituents and peers? Graham's case propels this dilemma into the spotlight, forcing society to confront the cost of such duplicity, not just for individuals, but for entire communities affected by those choices. The implications ripple far beyond one man. Yet, a sense of reluctance lingers with those who knew Graham best or worked closely with him. The layers of loyalty, shame, and political calculation complicate the picture, making full disclosure difficult. Some defend his memory, focusing on his public service, while others cast harsh judgment on the contrasts between his actions and private life. This tension highlights how revelations like these force a reckoning not just with facts, but with the narratives people build around public figures. But the real impact lies in the questions raised about power, identity, and the cost of living a divided life in the unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. Graham's political hypocrisy. Throughout his career, Lindsey Graham was a steadfast opponent of LGBTQ+ rights, often vocal in his opposition to legislation supporting equality and protection for queer communities. His public statements and votes made him a figure of hostility to many who sought acceptance and justice. Yet the new accounts reveal a man living a life starkly at odds with his own rhetoric, deepening the perception of hypocrisy that has long surrounded certain political figures. This contradiction goes beyond mere politics. It cuts to the heart of Graham's identity and motivations. By day, he championed policies that marginalized the very people he interacted with intimately by night. Such duplicity unsettles not only because of the deception involved, but due to the tangible harm inflicted on communities he publicly undermined. It suggests a man deeply conflicted, or perhaps someone willing to sacrifice integrity for political survival. Behind the scenes, sources alleged that Graham engaged in fetishistic behavior tied to the queer community he publicly derided. Reports describe him wearing red lingerie and engaging in encounters funded by him, further fueling the narrative of a man wrestling with his public and private selves. This behavior might explain in part the ferocity of his anti-LGBTQ+ stance, a mechanism to hide or suppress personal aspects he could not openly acknowledge. The existence of such stark contradictions has been an open secret within political circles for years. Many insiders hinted at Graham's closeted status, a shadow that loomed over his career but was never officially addressed. His situation is emblematic of a broader phenomenon in politics, especially within parties where overt expressions of traditional values dominate, but where private realities often stray. Graham's double life also kind of fed cynicism among constituents and activists, like to be judged harshly in public discourse while at the same time being patronized privately. It made this whole painful dynamic, you know? It puts into sharp relief that uneven playing field LGBTQ+ individuals are pushed onto when they ask for representation and respect, only to watch powerful lawmakers move against them while they live with contradictory personal lives. This hypocrisy is also woven into this wider culture of fear and repression inside political circles, the kind that pressures a lot of people to hide their real identity, even while they still carry outsized influence. Graham's case shows the cost, not just to him, but also to the people and the policies he helped shape. It shows how corrosive it gets when a system punishes authenticity and rewards conformity, control, and the whole performance. And then the way Graham's hypocrisy overlaps with extremist political movements like MAGA, it adds even more layers to the story. Inside those factions, expressions of bigotry sometimes function like a mask for hidden sexualities or other personal contradictions. That creates this toxic loop of denial and repression that hurts individuals and communities too. Graham's example is one of the most glaring, but it's not exactly the only one. When the public finally sees these inconsistencies, it basically forces a reevaluation of Graham's legacy. It makes people doubt the sincerity of his political agenda, and it underlines how crucial honesty is in leadership. More than that, it pushes voters and citizens to ask what they're willing to accept from the people who lead, and what hidden narratives could be sitting under the polished public performances. Even as Graham's political hypocrisy comes into sharper focus, another key element is why these secrets remained buried for so long, and how legal tools played a crucial role in maintaining the facade. The role of secrecy and NDAs. Non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, and legal pressure played a major role in keeping Lindsey Graham's private life hidden for years. These tools are often used by powerful figures to silence individuals who might reveal damaging information. For those involved, speaking out carried serious risks, including legal consequences, financial loss, and personal harm. A transgender actress who recently came forward described how NDAs prevented her from sharing her past connection with Graham while he was alive. These agreements effectively protected his public image, keeping sensitive details out of view. Only after his death did the risk lessen enough for her, and potentially others, to speak openly, breaking years of enforced silence. In politics, secrecy is often carefully managed. For someone like Graham, whose career depended on maintaining a specific public persona, NDAs were not just about privacy, but also about controlling narratives. By limiting what could be disclosed, these agreements helped preserve political credibility and avoid scandal that could disrupt public support. However, this raises broader concerns about transparency and accountability. When information is hidden through legal contracts, the public may be denied insight necessary to make informed decisions. This can erode trust, not just in individuals, but in the political system as a whole. The revelations after Graham's death show how fragile this whole secrecy thing can get. Like even the most carefully put together protections might end up collapsing sooner than anyone wants. And then these hidden truths start to come out. As more people actually start speaking up, the same legal mechanisms that once pushed silence into place now also make it pretty clear just how much money and power can steer things from behind the scenes. And there's also that part people don't always notice, the ones who helped keep the silence in motion. Staff members, legal teams, and political allies often take on the real work of upholding NDAs, basically functioning as gatekeepers for information. Even if they stay less visible, their involvement still helps keep that messy gap between public image and private reality. In the end, what you see here points to a wider issue in political culture. Secrecy can set up conditions where hypocrisy and moral compromise can just go unchallenged. When leaders are allowed to conceal major parts of their lives, it makes you ask uncomfortable questions about ethics, representation, and trust all at once. As those concealed details surface, the public gets stuck re-evaluating what leadership is supposed to mean. This case pushes for more open discussion around privacy, power, and accountability. And it also forces the question of whether today's systems allow too much concealment at the cost of honesty. This thread of secrecy and protection weaves directly into the larger pattern visible across political landscapes today, where many figures live hidden lives they publicly condemn. The broader context of closet cases in politics. Lindsey Graham's alleged secret life is often framed as part of a broader pattern within political circles, particularly among some factions of the Republican Party. For years, there have been claims and rumors about politicians who publicly oppose LGBTQ+ rights, while privately living in ways that appear to contradict those positions. This dynamic is often described as reflecting a culture shaped by fear, stigma, and pressure to conform to political expectations. Some observers and former insiders have suggested that such contradictions can create internal conflict for individuals, especially when personal identity and public messaging are at odds. In these accounts, the tension may lead to behavior that appears inconsistent or even harmful, particularly when policies affect marginalized communities. Critics argue that this disconnect can contribute to a cycle where personal struggles remain hidden while public actions reinforce restrictive or exclusionary policies. Discussions around this issue have also pointed to the role of secrecy in politics. Allegations of hidden relationships or undisclosed aspects of personal life have long circulated in Washington, but are rarely confirmed. Legal tools, professional loyalty, and fear of consequences have historically discouraged people from speaking out. As a result, many of these narratives remain unverified, yet still influence public perception and political discourse. At a broader level, the topic raises questions about authenticity and trust in leadership. Voters may wonder whether leaders are fully transparent about their beliefs and identities, and how that affects decision-making. The perceived gap between public image and private reality can erode confidence in institutions and contribute to cynicism about politics. This issue also reflects wider social tensions. Many voters support traditional values while simultaneously engaging with a more diverse and inclusive society. This creates a complex environment where public expectations and private realities do not always align. Some analysts view this as a sign of deeper divisions within political culture, where outward positions may not fully capture individual experiences or beliefs. The culture of secrecy in politics can further complicate these dynamics. When openness is discouraged, individuals may feel compelled to compartmentalize their lives, which can reinforce patterns of concealment. Historically, this has been a common strategy for public figures across parties, though increasing media scrutiny and the rise of social platforms have made it more difficult to maintain strict privacy. Greater public demand for transparency continues to challenge these long-standing practices. As expectations evolve, there is growing pressure on leaders to be more open and consistent. Whether this leads to meaningful change remains uncertain, but it highlights ongoing debates about identity, accountability, and integrity in public life. Ultimately, these discussions point to broader contradictions within political systems, where personal identity, public responsibility, and societal expectations often intersect in complicated and sometimes conflicting ways. As these hidden truths come to light, the impact reaches beyond individual stories to shape community responses and political consequences. Community impact and responses. The revelations about Lindsey Graham have deeply affected queer and trans communities, provoking a mix of anger, skepticism, and cautious hope. Many feel frustrated by the perceived hypocrisy of powerful figures who publicly oppose LGBTQ+ rights while privately engaging with the same communities. This sense of betrayal is especially strong for those who have long faced discrimination fueled by policies such leaders supported. At the same time, there is recognition of the complex pressures that can lead individuals to live double lives, particularly in political environments shaped by stigma, scrutiny, and fear of losing power or influence. Among escorts and queer activists, reactions remain mixed and often layered. Some express resentment at having been placed in situations where survival meant interacting with influential figures who later backed policies harmful to them. Others, however, highlight the resilience and adaptability of marginalized communities, emphasizing how they continue to navigate systems that often work against them while still finding ways to resist and advocate for change. These revelations have also intensified calls to confront stigma surrounding queer identities in both politics and society. Community leaders argue that the exposure of concealed lives points to deeper systemic issues, including repression, fear, and the high personal cost of enforced silence. They stress the need to build a culture where individuals, especially those in positions of power, can live openly without fear of backlash, judgment, or career consequences. At the same time, some voices caution against reducing the situation to a simple narrative of victimhood or moral failure. Instead, they highlight broader systemic forces, such as the weaponization of shame, rigid societal expectations, and intense political pressures that shape behavior. These conversations are part of a larger push for equity, transparency, and accountability across institutions. The emotional impact of these revelations is significant. For communities already grappling with marginalization, such stories can deepen distrust in political systems. Yet they also act as a catalyst for activism, strengthening calls for honesty, reform, and representation. Importantly, the response goes beyond personal grievances. Many view these developments as a rallying point in the ongoing fight for LGBTQ+ rights, reinforcing the urgency of meaningful and lasting change. Increased visibility and storytelling, especially from those who come forward, help shift the narrative from silence and shame toward empowerment and advocacy. Ultimately, these reactions reflect a broader reckoning with identity, power, and survival, showing how even controversial stories can spark necessary conversations about inclusivity, truth, and progress. With these shifting community dynamics in mind, the unfolding political implications, and how the broader landscape reacts cannot be overlooked. Political fallout and future implications. The revelations about Lindsey Graham's alleged secret life carry political consequences that reach past a simple personal embarrassment. For a lot of people, the story seems to show a kind of hypocrisy inside parts of the Republican Party, especially within its right-wing corner. And it also brings up doubts about leaders who talk up specific ideals in public while they contradict those ideals privately. That kind of mismatch chips away at credibility, and it makes public distrust sit deeper and harder. More broadly, this whole situation keeps feeding the bigger arguments about transparency and accountability in politics. Voters might get more and more cynical, feeling stuck on whether leaders really reflect what they claim to believe. And that uncertainty can make people less interested in showing up for the democratic process. Inside the GOP and MAGA groups, the issue also exposes a real push-pull between loyalty and integrity. Some observers see Graham's career as mirroring a struggle between political survival and personal truth, which could lead either to quiet reflection or to sharper internal division, depending on who you ask. Meanwhile, Democrats and progressive organizations may try to use the controversy to pressure conservative leadership and point out inconsistencies. In their hands, it becomes not just gossip, but a usable political asset. On the national scale, the case adds fuel to conversations about identity, authenticity, and what leadership even means. As public scrutiny keeps getting louder, especially with social media moving everything at high speed, it's harder to hide private contradictions. That pressure could push future leaders toward more openness, or it might reshape expectations of honesty for whoever is holding public office in some messy, ongoing way. Lindsey Graham's hidden life unmasked deep political hypocrisy and raised urgent questions about integrity and leadership. This story challenges us to look beyond public facades and demand honesty from those in power. If you found this revealing, please like and subscribe for more thoughtful analysis on the stories shaping our world.